All right, guys, what's going on? Welcome back to the Everything College Football Podcast. Today, me and Nick are going to be on 2024 preview and prediction for the BYU Cougars. Looking at this coaching staff, largely the same one from last season. Kalani Sitake's been the lead man since 2016. Aaron Roderick, his 8th year on staff, 4th in the role of offensive coordinator. Jay Hill, his 2nd year in the role. What's pretty interesting is these guys all have familiarities. They all coached at Utah from 2005 to 2013. So, pretty interesting coaching tree here at BYU. And obviously, this is a team coming off its first losing season since 2017. Look at the offensive side of the ball. The disappointments here are a big reason why they struggled so much. They do return 6 starters. 6 of the top 7 pass catchers are back. They did add 5 guys in the portal, but 3 of them are quarterbacks. On the other hand, they lost 6 players in the portal. Keaton Slovis was not very good, and this is a guy who never really developed following his freshman year at USC. Slovis wasn't very great. Neither was Jake Ratliff, who really struggled in his 4 games, started the last 4 of the year, lost all of them, took about 2 sacks per game. Accuracy wasn't good. But this is a loaded quarterback room in terms of new faces. Gary Buchanan comes over from, previously the Baylor quarterback. Won't fix the accuracy issues, but he is an upgrade who has experience, and he's also proven to be an efficient runner. Trayson Bourget played about 250 snaps over 2 seasons with Western Michigan and was below average, while the add of McKay Hillstead from Utah State seems to be the guy who can play for a starting role. Average player in a few starts for them. A few options here. None of them are exactly great, Nick. This quarterback room doesn't really seem to really scream a lot of talent. But I do have a handful of options here. Maybe too many options.
There's a lot of options here. None of them are really good. Keaton Slovis did not work out for this BYU team. He regressed heavily since his days at USC. That's been a trend with him. He has been regressing throughout his career. Didn't look good at Pitt and did not look good in his final act in college at BYU. And now he's looking to try and hopefully get on a roster. He's on the Colts roster right now. So Keaton Slovis moves on. And now you have a couple different options here that really are not incredible at all. You have a bunch of quarterbacks in this room. It's a crowded room. They're just not very good at all. Ratliff looks to be the guy that could potentially start this moment in time. He played in 4 games last year at a 50% comp rate, 3 touchdowns, 3 picks, and 648 yards across those games. Not good numbers at all for Ratliff. He was okay on the ground as well. He had 3 rushing touchdowns and 116 yards in those games. He could potentially be the starter here at this point in time, but in general, this is a very weak room that, Jerry Bohannon's not really an incredible player as well. Tyson Burgett, could be okay, but he wasn't phenomenal at Western Michigan either when he transfers over here. McKay Hillstead, is he going to be the guy to start this moment in time? He could be the guy to take those reins and kind of try and lead this team forward. A very crowded room, but a very bad room. Too much of a whole lot of nothing.
You look at the running back room, this is a ground game that really struggled, only 104 yards per game, which is one of the nation's worst marks at 120th. LJ Martin, though, as a freshman, was a pleasant surprise. Showcased great ball security and efficiency. 30-year player Miles Davis behind him only saw a couple of touches. Hinkley Rapati has never saw the field and figures to be a 3rd stringer. Not a great room here, but Martin can likely emerge into a bell cow. And the biggest question mark is if this ground game can really surge, and it's going to be behind an offensive line that didn't exactly live up to the hype last year. It was still a relatively good unit, but they do lose a few key guys. Braden Kime was a really good right tackle. He's now going to move to left tackle to replace an NFL draft pick. Waylon Lapuau saw great time at both guard spots. Mainly played at right guard, though. Looks like he's moved to that left side. Has also had a pretty good season. Connor Pay really disappointed at center, especially in pass protection. Should evolve into a good interior offensive line here, though, for the Cougars, I would say. Even though I think they'll likely struggle, I think the upside's there. Caleb Etienne wasn't all that impressive and was a poor run blocker in his 6 games. They're going to slot him at right tackle. Sonny Makasaini, who didn't see the field in year 1, and true freshman Joe Brown, probably going to battle at right guard. This should be a respectable offensive line. They have nice size and some good players, but they need to be better in being physical on the ground, Nick. What do you think this run game's expectations are this season?
This run game was really poor last year. They struggled a lot for this team. 120th in the nation, averaging just over 100 yards per game. LJ Martin is a guy that you want to keep an eye on, though, in this conference. He could be a player that could really have a solid season. Was solid as a true freshman, 518 yards on the ground and 4 scores across 10 games, plus 1 receiving touchdown on 11 grabs for 45 yards. I like Martin to step up and be a good player as a true sophomore. I think he's a really solid player. Miles Davis got a few touches last year as well. 78 yards on 16 carries. He's going to try and be involved in the offense as well. His offensive line has some solid pieces. They need to replace some NFL caliber players. I think Connor Pay is a really solid player at center, a really good senior leader for this team. Braden Kime at left tackle, he could be a really solid piece for this offense. Caleb Etienne at right tackle I like as well. The interior outside of Pay does worry me a little bit. I think both guards are a little weak, but I do like the tackles this team has and what they return.
Looking at the wide receiver room, a part of the offense I'm a big fan of. Chase Roberts has been a crafty pass catcher for a couple of seasons now, has nice versatility at 6'4", 210. Cody Epps was unable to capitalize off a strong 2022 campaign, but he was hurt the entire first month, while Darius Lassiter stepped up big in his absence, but was unable to keep up the consistency past the month of September. Keelan Marion, Parker Kingston are back. Both had 200-plus yards last year. Keanu Hill has added a lot of size. He's now up to 6'4", 240. As he makes the transition to tight end, has been productive in the past, but now fills some big shoes with Isaac Rex's departure. Much improved receiving room, I'd say, overall. Capable room. Needs good play under center to showcase that, though. Nick, do you think they're going to be able to get it?
I do like this wide receiver room. I worry about the quarterbacks throwing the ball to him, but I do think this is a solid room. Chase Roberts, 573 yards receiving, 5 touchdowns on 13.6 yards per grab, your top returning receiver last year. Lassiter had 365 yards, 12.6 yards per grab, and 4 scores. Eaps, Marlone, and Kingston all had above 200 yards receiving, with Eaps 260 yards receiving, Marlone 216, and Kingston 207. Plus, Kingston had a touchdown. Keanu Hill in 8 games had 187 yards receiving on 12 grabs and a score for him as well. So solid production there, in my opinion. Really nice target numbers here. Really good returning players in general. Definitely the best part of this offense. A nice experienced group.
The Cougars offense, the verdict on them was they were drastically poor last season despite having some quality pieces. They just weren't good. Quarterback is a complete mystery. Running back room only has one guy you can count on, while off the offensive line disappointed last year. How much better can they truly be? Well, again, the deep wide receiver room might just be a wash here for them. I think we could see a solid group here if the O-line really surges in run blocking. Unlikely to have that stability under center, though. Look at the defensive side of the ball, about giving up about 30 points per game. This is a group that also took some massive steps back, added only 3 guys in the portal, lost 6. Returned 7 starters, though. Biggest issue here is this pass rush, Nick. Only 11 sacks, tied for dead last in college football. Tyler Beatty, though, he's phenomenal at defensive end. He's going to anchor. He does a very good job of, anchoring against bull rushes. Veteran that should be a captain this season once again. Expected to take the next step as a pass rusher. Good feel and ability to shed blocks. Was a great run defender. Quickness and flexibility. He's been great for a few years now at 6'5", 273. The rest of the defensive line, Joshua Singh at 275 is likely to step into a starting defensive tackle role. John Nelson is another veteran at 270, has some good strength. He was missed after getting hurt after only 7 games. David Latu returns, but was a liability. He is 6'4", 300, though. Blank Mangelson was a respectable edge. Is pretty solid against the run. He and Isaiah Bagno, though, are good veterans that need to step up their production. Bagno shows us a nice motor and does a good job of typically getting off blocks against bigger guys. So they have capable edge defenders here, Nick. We didn't see it last year in terms of pass rushing production. They should certainly be better. But 11 sacks, that's going to make your job incredibly hard for anybody when you got no pass rush.
They had no pass rush last year, and that was clearly a big issue. Tyler Beatty returns, 57 total tackles, 9 tackles for loss, 5.5 sacks. He had half his team's sacks by himself last year at that 5.5 mark. He really is the heartbeat of that pass rush. He's going to have a similar season if this team wants to find success getting after the quarterback, which they really did not have a lot at all last year. I look at another guy in Isaiah Bagno, 27 total tackles, 1.5 tackles for loss, 1 sack for him. He returns looking to hopefully get some more numbers on the stat sheet. He has struggled to find that extra step up. John Nelson, Joshua Singh are 2 guys that return as well. I think are solid players. Didn't have a whole lot of production between the 2 of them last year as they return, trying to beef up that production. This front part of this defense has to find a way to get after the quarterback in the backfield. 11 sacks only last year is a really disappointingly low number.
Look in the middle of this defense, a part of the 4-3 they run. It's usually been a stout room at linebacker. They should remain relatively impressive. Ben Bywater is on his way to an elite year with 32 tackles in 4 games before injury. He's proven to be a good coverage player and has improved in the run defense category. Jack Kelly reunites with defensive coordinator Jay Hill. He's proven to be a great pass rusher in his 2 years at Weber State. Isaiah Glasker didn't play much last year. He and Sione Mawa will have a full starting role. Harrison Taggart played a bit last year, but wasn't any good. And then you have Ace Kafusi entering his 2nd year with the program, another one in the famed Cougar Kafusi lineage. I think this will be a pretty solid room, Nick. Bywater obviously is tremendous, but these other guys are going to have to prove their worth.
Ben Bywater is a really solid player. 32 total tackles in 4 games last year before his injury. Was well on his way to a 100 tackles season. Had a nice pace he set early on, 3 tackles for loss and a sack as well. Ace Kafusi, 10 total tackles for him in 12 games as he kind of getting his feet wet in college football. Harrison Taggart, 28 total tackles through 12 games for him as well. A solid player. Jack Kelly is a good add out of the portal. I think it's a really solid middle part of this defense.
Looking at the secondary, Marquis Collins arrives after 6 seasons at Weber State. Only played 2 games last year, though, due to an injury. In the past, really proved to be a good outside corner, kind of like when they added Addie Heckard from last year from Weber State, the man in the slot, and was good in doing so. So some of the connections working out for Hill. Jacob Robinson, the best defensive back on the team, really showcased his ball skills last year. Needs to be more consistent in coverage, though. Maury Bamba was respectable in his appearances and will occupy a backup role with Marcus McKenzie, who only saw a couple of snaps. Safety group will need to step up. Damani Rader played 100-plus snaps, wasn't all that good. Talon Alfie played the final 3 games of the year. Saw extensive action. He was average at best. Ethan Slade was also, kind of an average starter all year long. Crew Wackley and Tanner Wall both saw lots of snaps. The Laters coming across only 5 games. The Crew probably being the best coverage player. Saw plenty of different faces overall at safety. I think the return of Micah Harper is big, as he missed all of last year, establishing himself as a future star back in 22. Likely the man in the slot has versatility and will play safety at times, especially if the struggles continue. Secondary has lots of experience, should take some nice steps forward this year, as they didn't allow a lot of big plays last year, and they had 14 interceptions as a team. I would consider this a strength for the defense, Nick, for them to be able to perform that well while having a horrid pass rush. If the pass rush can be, a tenth better, they could probably do some damage in the back end.
I do like what this secondary has on paper. Ethan Slade, your top returning tackler, 60 total tackles, a pick, and 3 pass breakups for him last year. Solid tackler, not really phenomenal in coverage, but still a really solid tackle. Jacob Robinson, 59 total tackles, 4 interceptions, and 7 pass breakups, plus a pick 6 in there. Really solid in coverage, your best coverage asset, a really good player. Crew Wakely as well, 59 total tackles, 6 pass breakups, plus a pick. Another guy really strong in coverage. Tanner Wall looked good through 5 games, a guy that's got some good experience early on. Maury Bamba played a few snaps here and there at 6 total tackles. Good experience for him early on. Marquis Collins, could he be a solid add from Weber State? Certainly a guy that could be involved early on as a player that could have some impact. Micah Harper coming back from his injury, is he going to be able to play full strength? If he is, that'd be really solid. I do like this secondary a lot. Definitely the best part of this defense.
Look at the verdict for the side of the ball. The Cougars' D was a carbon copy of the unit from 22. An improvement should be imminent, as there's veterans all around. Front 7 needs to regain its edge, as they were dominated against the run. They were just not very good. The lack of depth and size is a bit concerning. And, again, while the secondary should take big strides, it won't matter if this pass rush remains horrid. Looking at the schedule prediction, you can say this for a lot of teams, right? But I think in BYU's case, it's very firm. It's a team of what ifs. What if they get stability at quarterback? What if the offensive line takes steps and improves their run game? And, what if the pass rush plays to the level it's capable of? In that case, this team could probably scrape to bowl eligibility. The run defense, though, has struggled 3 years in a row. I'm just not a big believer in this offense taking more than marginal strides, as it's probably going to be a revolving door at quarterback. That's why it leads us to a tough prediction of 4-8, Nick, for BYU. This is a team, again, I just thought kind of disappointed last year. Obviously, transition for everyone going over to the Big 12 was pretty complicated. But I think in this case, you're looking at a C offense and C-plus defense at best. Kalani Sitake, I think he's a great coach. I think this home environment is very rowdy and it's pretty underrated. And they'll probably steal a game or here that we have them, or 2 that we have them losing, Nick. But 4-8 for me right here. Can hit a bowl game if they can, figure out the quarterback situation. I'm gonna stick with a pretty low mark though.
I have a low mark as well. I'm at 3-9. I think they're going to lose to Oklahoma State, a game that you think they'll pick off the Pokes up there in Provo, and that's a fair thing to say, as it's tough to play up there. A very strong, rough, and rowdy environment up there at BYU. I do think they have a really strong fan base. A tough schedule, right? At SMU, at a conference, that's certainly a tough. And at Wyoming, that's a tough place to play, highest altitude in all of college football in terms of stadiums in the country. Feet above sea level, so that's a tough place to play if you're not adjusted to the altitude. Although Provo is pretty high above sea level as well. Tough games in conference, at Baylor, at Arizona State, at Utah, at UCF. Arizona State's not going to be a very good team this year, but tough to play on the road in this conference. UCF, Utah, 2 really strong teams, and Baylor as well. The home slate's not much easier. Arizona, Kansas State, Kansas, all teams kind of figuring out what they want to do, and then Oklahoma State and Houston come to town as well. 2 of the more bottom tier teams in Houston. That is, at least, Oklahoma State's a little bit better than BYU in my opinion. Tough schedule without a quarterback really option that makes a lot of sense, plus no pass rush. Seems to be a tough season here. This offense was dreadful last year. I don't expect a whole lot of improvement. A tough year for the Cougars. They try to figure out where they're going in the Big 12.
For today's episode, as always, Nick, appreciate you joining me. BYU, a team that can be fun to watch sometimes on late, Friday or Saturday nights. This is a team that's probably going to struggle a good bit this year. Some solid upside, but we're not too hopeful at the moment. As always, Nick, thanks for joining.
Looking forward to watching this team this year.
Make sure you guys like, comment, subscribe. See you next time.